Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. I have the all-new Subaru WRX here, and you know what? I'm actually really liking it. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but it's very impressive. I would say this is a standout in terms of ride and handling and performance. Let me tell you 7 likes and 7 dislikes about the new Subaru WRX. Let's go. The first thing I really like about the WRX is the quickness of the steering and the handling. Now the reason why I can tell is because you can take the steering and wiggle left and right really quickly, and most cars just do not respond very well to that kind of a motion. But on the WRX, oh my goodness, it's like a Porsche style of quickness, and it's very accurate. So I love the steering, and that's the first thing I like. The second thing I love about the WRX is the manual transmission. This 6-speed is surprisingly quick, crisp, and just the right amount of tactile feel. The clutch is a bit heavier than what I'm used to in terms of other Japanese cars, but the balancing of the clutch and the shifter is almost perfect, and I find myself just loving the way it drives on the road. The third positive thing is all to do with the powertrain and engine. 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine producing 271 horsepower and 258 pound-foot of torque. This thing is super torquey, it picks up really quick, and unlike other naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, it's got a really good maximum torque rating at low RPM, so you step on it, it takes off right away. It's surprisingly smooth and refined, much more than I expected, and you know what, it's really quite beautiful engine. Even the hood scoop is functional, it actually feeds right into the engine right here, and the thing is actually quite silky smooth, so I'm loving the engine. The fourth positive thing is the ride and the suspension and the calibration they've done. Because WRX is obviously designed for rally-inspired driving, it soaks up bumps with ease, and it doesn't matter what kind of road condition it is absolutely smooth and refined. So you get an added benefit when you're driving this day by day of the really comfortable ride that is unexpected in a sporty models like this. So the ride is exceptional and the calibration is almost perfect. The fifth good thing is the interior richness and design. It is a very simple design, but you get a really good feel in terms of the leather materials. Also the stitchings are pretty cool, and most of the seats are extremely comfortable, and this Alcantara style of suede seats is really well done. The quality is first class. I don't see or feel or hear any rattles or squeaks. And even though most of the time I'm not too crazy about tablet style design, it works in the Subaru WRX. Plus we get real buttons for volume, for tuning, even temperature controls. So it's extremely functional and practical. The sixth thing you notice is that even though it's a smaller vehicle and it's not a 5-door hatchback like the Civic, it doesn't feel claustrophobic on this vehicle. It feels very airy, open, and you sit up a little bit taller because of the extra ground clearance that the WRX has. So overall, when I'm driving this, it almost kind of feels like sort of a sportier version of a crossover in many ways. And so for those people who want the practicality of space and roominess, but don't really want to buy a crossover SUV, I think this is perfect. The seventh and the most important point about the WRX is that it is still built in Japan at the Subaru factory there. So you get all of the quality in terms of interior and exterior, and you can see it when I walk around and do a quick audit. It is absolutely first class in terms of manufacturing quality. So even though most of the competitors have a North American built vehicles in this class, you still get the Japanese made one for the Subaru WRX. So those were some of the things I love about the WRX. What about things I'm not too crazy about? Well, the first one is somewhat subjective, and obviously everyone has their own opinion, but the styling I think is too conservative. Here is a WRX designed for a rally-inspired driving, and you know what? The design looks like it hasn't changed very much. In fact, it looks like cars from 1990s and early 2000s. Maybe that's intentional to give that bit of a retro feel. But I feel like they could have done a little bit more to please the ever-demanding customers these days in this type of market. So the styling and the design is something that I'm not too crazy about. The second thing to point out is the infotainment system, which I still find a little bit awkward in terms of the actual software. It is pretty quick and fast, but I think they could have improved the actual layout and the way you interact with the user. The third thing to keep in mind is the fact that WRX is facing many competitors, especially from Honda in the form of Honda Civic Si, which I think is a benchmark in this class because the Honda Civic has that very mature, refined feel that most people might crave in this type of segment. And also, whereas the Honda still offers the hatchback, the WRX doesn't have the hatchback anymore like it used to many years ago. So I think in terms of competition, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to convince someone to buy the WRX versus the Honda Civic, even though I actually personally think the WRX is a better car in terms of drivability. The fourth negative point is the sort of opening of the trunk. Because it's not a hatchback, this thing is pretty small and this is pretty high off the ground. So if you want to put something bigger in here, like electric scooter or bicycles these days, you're gonna have a heck of a time trying to do that. So I wish that once again they offered a hatchback, or at least made this opening a little bit bigger by lowering this sill. Something to keep in mind for next time. For that matter, the rear legroom is also a little bit tight. The fifth thing is not so much about the negative point on this vehicle, but something about the future. Because we heard that Subaru is no longer going to offer the STI version of the WRX, and that is perhaps the most disappointing news we've heard. I hope Subaru is listening and they will change their mind, because we really want the STI to come back. The sixth point I want to talk about is the transmission. I actually love the manual transmission in this car, but automatic is actually still a CVT and not a dual clutch transmission or regular automatic transmission. So even though I haven't driven the CVT version of the Subaru WRX, I wish they offered more of a traditional transmission. The seventh and the final point is that even though this is made in Japan and therefore it should be a really good quality overall, I'm not quite sure about the long-term reliability yet, because in that regard, Subaru has never quite kept up to date with Toyota models, which are obviously known for amazing reliability. So that's something we'll have to wait and see. But my guess is that it will not be quite as good as Honda or Toyota on a long-term basis, something that Subaru needs to improve. Now, in case you didn't know, Toyota does own 20% of Subaru, so there's lots of cross-functional sharing between the two brands. So over time, Subaru should continuously improve their reliability and quality, because they're obviously learning from Toyota as well. But for now, we're not quite sure about the long-term reliability, something that Toyota and Honda still have an edge over the Subaru brand. So as a final conclusion, what do I think? Well, I love this car enough that actually I will buy this as an everyday, daily car to drive, because the manual is wonderful, the engine is very refined and smooth and quite peppy, and it's got a legendary Subaru all-wheel drive, which will allow it to go anywhere. And because of the suspension that is designed for kind of rally-inspired road, it soaks up the road really well. Perfect for our West Coast weather right here in Vancouver, Canada. There's nothing from Toyota, I think, that competes with this right now. Maybe the Corolla A-Spec, which isn't anywhere as good as this one. And of course, the GR Corolla is more of a higher performing vehicle and more expensive than this one. And perhaps it competes most closely with the Honda Civic Si. But I think this one is more fun to drive, and I will buy this in a heartbeat. So that's my conclusion for a Subaru WRX. What do you guys think? Give me a thumbs up and make some comments if you can. Or if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. I would truly appreciate that. Until next time, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.